Have you ever walked through a city where a centuries-old castle stands right next to a futuristic glass tower? Some places blend history and modern innovation so seamlessly that they feel like a living time machine. From ancient streets lined with skyscrapers to futuristic districts hiding centuries-old landmarks, these cities prove that the past and future can exist side by side. Today we're exploring 8 cities where modern and historic architecture blend perfectly. Let's dive in. London, UK. London is like a time machine that refuses to pick just one era. One minute you're staring at the majestic Tower of London, its stone walls whispering stories from the medieval age. The next, you're craning your neck to take in the ultra-modern Shard, a glass and steel giant piercing the sky at over 1,000 feet. But that's just the beginning. Walk down the streets and you'll spot Victorian townhouses, Gothic churches, and cutting-edge skyscrapers, all blending together like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of architecture. One of the most striking contrasts, St. Paul's Cathedral and the nearby Millennium Bridge. On one side, you've got a 17th century masterpiece with a stunning dome designed by Sir Christopher Wren. On the other, a sleek, futuristic pedestrian bridge that looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. And let's not forget the Gherkin, that quirky, bullet-shaped skyscraper that somehow fits perfectly among historic brick buildings. London doesn't erase its history to make way for modernity. It builds around it, over it, and sometimes even through it. The result? A city that feels both timeless and futuristic at the same time. Whether you're a history buff or a lover of modern marvels, London is a visual roller coaster that never gets old. Paris, France. Paris is a city where you can sip espresso in a centuries-old cafe, while gazing at a futuristic glass pyramid. Yes, we're talking about the Louvre Pyramid. Designed by IMP, this sleek modern structure was controversial when it was first built. How dare they put something so contemporary next to the Palais du Louvre, a Renaissance-era palace? But today, it's one of the city's most iconic sites, a perfect example of how Paris embraces both heritage and innovation. And then there's La Défense, Paris's ultra-modern business district. Just a short metro ride from the romantic streets of Montmartre, this area feels like stepping into the future. Towering glass skyscrapers, bold geometric designs, and the massive Grande Arche, a modern reimagining of the historic Arc de Triomphe, create a mind-blowing contrast with the city's old-world charm. But Paris doesn't just slap modern buildings next to historic ones, it weaves them together seamlessly. Take the Musée d'Orsay, for example. What was once a grand railway station is now a world-famous art museum, its Beaux-Art architecture blending effortlessly with its sleek, contemporary interior. In Paris, modernity doesn't replace history, it enhances it. Whether you're admiring the Gothic beauty of Notre Dame or the sleek elegance of the Louis Vuitton Foundation, one thing is certain: Paris proves that the past and the future can coexist beautifully. Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo is where the past and future collide in the most spectacular way. Imagine walking through the ancient gates of Sensoji, a 1,300-year-old Buddhist temple, with its giant red lantern swaying in the wind. But just a few steps away, you're suddenly surrounded by the blinding neon lights of Akihabara, where futuristic skyscrapers glow with LED billboards and robotic cafes serve your coffee. It's like stepping through a time portal without ever leaving the street. And then there's Shibuya, home to the world's busiest crosswalk. Above the sea of people, sleek glass towers rise, reflecting Tokyo's ultra-modern heartbeat. But hidden between the concrete and steel, you'll find Meiji Shrine, a peaceful forest sanctuary built over a century ago, where towering torii gates and ancient wooden halls remind you that tradition still holds its ground in this hyper-modern city. But Tokyo doesn't just preserve history, it reinvents it. Take Tokyo Station, a red brick masterpiece from 1914, now restored to its original grandeur while modern bullet trains zoom in and out of its underground platforms. Even the iconic Tokyo Skytree, a 2,000-foot-tall futuristic marvel, draws inspiration from traditional Japanese pagodas. In Tokyo, time isn't a straight line. It's a swirling fusion of past, present, and the future waiting to unfold. Istanbul, Turkey. Istanbul is a city built on layers of history, where Byzantine, Ottoman, and modern influences exist in a breathtaking architectural dance. Imagine standing before the Hagia Sophia, a building that has been a church, a mosque, and now a museum. its massive dome and intricate mosaics whispering stories from empires long gone. Just across the square, the towering minarets of the Blue Mosque pierce the sky, showcasing the grandeur of Ottoman craftsmanship. And then, as if history wasn't grand enough, Istanbul stuns you with its modern skyline, filled with sleek glass towers reflecting the shimmering waters of the Bosphorus. But the real magic of Istanbul is how it blends the old and new so effortlessly. The Galata Tower, a medieval stone fortress, now shares the cityscape with ultra-modern suspension bridges that connect Europe and Asia. And beneath the bustling streets, the Basilica Cistern, an ancient underground reservoir from the Roman era, still stands strong, its eerie, water-lit columns feeling like something out of a fantasy novel. Then, there's the Bosphorus Bridge, a stunning feat of modern engineering that connects two continents in a single stretch, proving that Istanbul isn't just a relic of the past, it's a city that continuously evolves. Whether you're strolling through the Grand Bazaar, one of the world's oldest markets, or sipping coffee on a rooftop overlooking the glittering skyscrapers of Levant, one thing is clear: Istanbul isn't just a city, it's a living, breathing story of time itself. New York City, USA. New York City isn't just a place, it's an architectural battleground where the old refuses to back down and the new keeps pushing the limits. Imagine standing in Madison Square Park looking at the Flatiron Building, a 1902 architectural marvel with its distinctive triangular shape. Now turn your head slightly, and there it is. One Vanderbilt, a futuristic skyscraper with sleek glass panels reflecting the sky. The past and future aren't just neighbors in NYC, they're locked in an eternal conversation. The city is full of unexpected contrasts. Walk along the High Line, a once-abandoned railway turned into a stunning urban park where wildflowers bloom between steel tracks, all while cutting-edge glass towers rise beside it. And then there's Grand Central Terminal, a Beaux-Arts masterpiece with celestial ceilings, still bustling with life in an age of digital screens and hyperloop concepts. But the real magic? NYC reinvents itself without erasing its roots. The classic brownstone-lined streets of Brooklyn now share space with ultra-modern waterfront developments. Even the World Trade Center site, once a place of loss, now stands as a powerful symbol of resilience, with the ultra-modern One World Trade Center soaring into the clouds. In New York, the past doesn't fade, it simply evolves, standing proudly beside the future. Barcelona, Spain. Barcelona feels like a city where architecture went to art school, got inspired by every era, and then decided to blend them all into one masterpiece. Walking through its streets, you'll see Gothic cathedrals, surreal modernist buildings, and sleek contemporary towers all coexisting like a perfectly orchestrated symphony. And at the heart of it all, the genius of Antoni Gaudí. His masterpiece, La Sagrada Familia, is the ultimate symbol of Barcelona's fusion of old and new. Started in 1882, it's still under construction, with traditional stone carvings on one side and futuristic geometric towers on the other. It's as if time itself got confused and decided to showcase every era in a single structure. But Barcelona isn't just about Gaudí. Take a walk through the Gothic quarter where medieval streets lead to hidden plazas. Then suddenly you find yourself at Torre Glorias, a futuristic bullet-shaped skyscraper covered in glowing LEDs. And then there's the Olympic Port, a modern waterfront district built for the 1992 Olympics, now filled with sleek high-rises that contrast beautifully with the ancient charm of the nearby old city. Barcelona doesn't follow the rules of time. It bends them, breaks them, and turns them into art. Whether you're wandering through a centuries-old market or marveling at the latest avant-garde design, one thing is certain: Barcelona is a city that refuses to fit into just one era. Shanghai, China. Shanghai is what happens when a city refuses to choose between the past and the future. So it takes both and makes them even more spectacular. Imagine standing at the Bund, a waterfront lined with grand colonial buildings from the 1920s, their intricate facades and domed rooftops telling stories of Shanghai's past. But turn your head and suddenly, you're staring at Pudong, where the skyline looks straight out of a sci-fi movie. The Shanghai Tower, a twisting glass skyscraper standing at 2,073 feet, towers over the iconic Oriental Pearl Tower, a structure so futuristic it seems like it landed from another planet. But here's where it gets even better. Shanghai doesn't just preserve history, it reimagines it. Take Xintiandi, for example. Once a neighborhood of old Shikuman stone gate houses, it has been transformed into a trendy district. where traditional brick facades now house sleek cafes and luxury boutiques. And then there's the Long Museum, built inside an old coal bunker, seamlessly blending industrial history with ultra-modern design. Shanghai is proof that a city can race into the future without leaving its soul behind. Whether you're wandering through an ancient water town or watching the skyline shimmer from a rooftop bar, one thing's for sure, Shanghai isn't just a city, it's a time machine that lets you step into the past, present, and future all at once. Rome, Italy. Rome is the eternal city, and for good reason. It refuses to let time define it. You can stand in front of the Colosseum, a nearly 2,000-year-old gladiator arena, then walk just a few minutes and find yourself staring at the Maxi Museum, a sleek, ultra-modern art space designed by Zaha Hadid. It's a city where every era of architecture not only survives but thrives side by side. What makes Rome truly special is that it doesn't treat modern architecture as an enemy to history. It blends them in ways that feel almost poetic. Take the Ara Pacis Museum, for example. Inside, you'll find a perfectly preserved altar from ancient Rome, but it's enclosed in a modern glass and concrete structure, allowing sunlight to illuminate something over 2,000 years old. And let's not forget EUR, a district originally designed in the 1930s that now features a stunning mix of neoclassical buildings and contemporary skyscrapers. Even Rome's metro stations are works of art. Some, like San Giovanni Station, are designed like underground museums, showcasing ancient Roman artifacts unearthed during construction. Rome isn't just a city, it's a living, breathing timeline of human civilization. Whether you're tossing a coin into Trevi Fountain or admiring the bold, futuristic lines of Parco della Musica, one thing is clear: Rome doesn't let time control it. Instead, it turns time into art. Architecture tells the story of time, and these cities prove that history and modernity can coexist beautifully. Which one amazed you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you love exploring the world's most stunning cityscapes, subscribe to DwellScape for more amazing architecture and design content. See you in the next video. Imagine waking up to the gentle sway of water beneath you, sipping coffee as the sunrise reflects off the waves. Sounds dreamy, right? But what if your houseboat wasn't just any ordinary floating home? What if it could dive underwater, zip open like a zipper, or even look like a giant egg? Yep, these houseboats exist. Which one would you dare to live in? Do you prefer luxury on the water, or are you all about the weird and wild? Buckle up, because these 8 strangest houseboats will blow your mind. The Beatles-themed canal boat. Alright, imagine this. You're floating down a peaceful canal in Liverpool, surrounded by vintage guitars, psychedelic posters, and walls echoing with Beatles history. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, this isn't just any ordinary houseboat, it's a floating Beatles museum. Docked at the Yacht Club Marina, this canal boat is a time capsule of the 1960s. The second you step inside, you're hit with nostalgia. Vinyl records, neon signs, and even a retro jukebox playing Hey Jude on repeat. It's designed for true music lovers, making you feel like you're backstage at a Beatles concert, minus the screaming fans. But don't be fooled. This houseboat isn't just a themed gimmick. It's a fully functional, cozy living space with plush seating, warm lighting, and a deck where you can sit back, sip your tea, and let the rhythm of the water match the beat of your favorite songs. Whether you're a hardcore Beatles fan or just someone looking for a quirky and unforgettable stay, this floating tribute will have you saying, "Here comes the sun" every morning. The Harpy. Now let's shift gears to something straight out of a royal fantasy. A houseboat fit for a king. Meet the Harpy, a luxurious floating mansion once visited by King George V himself. And no, this isn't your standard cramped boat home. This is a 60-foot open-plan houseboat moored on the River Thames, right in the heart of London. Step inside, and you'll feel like you've walked into a historic castle on water. There's a 4-poster bed, intricately designed wooden interiors, and a grand lounge area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the London skyline. Whether you want to sip champagne while watching the city lights dance on the water, or relax on a vintage leather couch with a book, this houseboat screams elegance. But the best part? It's a floating piece of history. This boat once served as a customs and excise pontoon office, monitoring goods flowing into London. Today it's a luxurious retreat where you can experience the charm of the past while enjoying modern comforts. If houseboats had a monarchy, the Harpy would be king. The floating seahorse. Alright, tell me this. Have you ever dreamed of waking up underwater? No. Not in a sinking ship but in a luxurious houseboat where your bedroom is submerged beneath the waves. Sounds unreal, right? Well, Dubai, the land of impossible dreams, made it happen with the floating seahorse. This isn't just a houseboat. It's a 3-story masterpiece floating in the middle of the Persian Gulf. The top deck is all about luxury. A private sunbathing area, a hot tub, and 360-degree ocean views. The middle deck? A sleek, modern living space with high-end interiors and glass walls. But the real magic happens when you head below deck. Your bedroom and bathroom are fully underwater, with floor-to-ceiling glass giving you a front-row seat to marine life. Imagine brushing your teeth while a school of exotic fish drifts by, or falling asleep as stingrays glide past your window. No need for an aquarium when the ocean itself is your living room. And the best part? These floating villas are part of Dubai's grand vision to redefine luxury living. Designed for millionaires and thrill-seekers, they blend high-tech engineering with sheer extravagance. If mermaids had summer homes, they'd probably live here. The Expiry egg. Alright, picture this. A giant wooden egg bobbing gently on the water. No, this isn't some weird alien pod or a misplaced Easter decoration. This is the Expiry egg. A tiny, self-sustaining floating home that takes minimalism to a whole new level. Unlike massive houseboats, the Expiry egg isn't about luxury. It's about living in harmony with nature. Designed as a floating research station, it's completely off-grid, powered by solar energy, and built from sustainable materials. Inside, there's just enough space for a bed, a desk, and a small cooking area. No fancy jacuzzis or marble countertops. Just you, the water, and pure serenity. The best part? The egg-shaped design isn't just for looks. It moves with the tides, blending into the environment rather than disrupting it. This makes it a perfect hideaway for artists, writers, or anyone who wants to disconnect from the chaos of modern life. Living in an egg might sound crazy, but in a world obsessed with excess, this floating cocoon proves that sometimes, less is more. Who knew the secret to peace and simplicity could be found inside a giant wooden egg? The zipper boat. Alright, imagine cruising down a river and suddenly, it looks like someone is unzipping the water itself. Sounds like a magic trick, right? Well, welcome to the zipper boat, a jaw-dropping piece of floating art from Japan that blends illusion with reality. Designed to look like a massive zipper pulling apart the water, this boat is an optical illusion in motion. The hull is shaped like 2 curling fabric edges, and the middle teeth of the zipper give the surreal effect that the river is being peeled open as the boat moves. It's the kind of thing that makes you do a double take. Wait, is the water actually unzipping? But beyond its mind-bending design, this isn't just an art project, it's a fully functional houseboat. The interior is sleek and minimalistic, offering a cozy living space that feels like you're floating through a dream. Imagine waking up in a bed while ripples of water swirl around you, the illusion of an unzipped river stretching out in both directions. More than just a houseboat, the zipper boat is a statement on creativity and design. A reminder that even the most everyday things, like water, can be transformed into something extraordinary. It's proof that living on the water doesn't have to be boring, it can be pure art in motion. The roller boat. Now let's talk about a houseboat so weird, so unusual that even science couldn't figure it out. Meet the roller boat, an experimental floating contraption from Canada that looks like, well, a giant floating cigar. Designed in the late 1800s by Frederick Augustus Knapp, this bizarre vessel was supposed to revolutionize water travel. The idea? Instead of a normal boat gliding on the water, the entire cylindrical hull would rotate, rolling like a massive wheel across the waves. In theory, it could hit insane speeds over 200 miles per hour. Yes, you read that right. Faster than most speedboats today. But here's the catch. It didn't really work. The first test run ended in complete disaster, and the boat struggled to move efficiently. It was unstable, hard to control, and pretty much useless as an actual vehicle. It was a genius idea that simply defied physics. And yet, despite its failure, the rollerboat remains one of the strangest houseboats ever built. It was later repurposed into a floating home, proving that even the weirdest inventions can find a second life. Imagine telling your guests, "Hey, welcome to my home. It was supposed to be the fastest boat in history, but now it's my cozy little retreat." Sometimes, failure leads to the most fascinating creations, and this floating cigar-turned houseboat is a perfect example. The Sea Breacher. Alright, Forget everything you think you know about houseboats because this one doesn't just float. It dives, jumps, and speeds through water like a real-life sea predator. Meet the Sea Breacher, a next-level watercraft that's part boat, part submarine, and part wild thrill ride. At first glance, you might mistake it for a futuristic shark-shaped speedboat, but trust me, this beast is something else entirely. With a powerful engine under the hood, the Sea Breacher can hit speeds of 50 miles per hour, dive underwater up to 5 meters, and then leap into the air like a dolphin. Imagine your houseboat suddenly torpedoing under the waves and then launching out like it's performing a circus act. Yeah, it's that crazy. Inside, you're strapped into a cockpit straight out of a fighter jet. The controls feel more like you're piloting a plane than driving a boat, giving you an adrenaline rush you'd never expect from a floating home. And yes, people have turned these into semi-houseboats, fitting them with cozy seating, entertainment systems, and even small living areas for short stays on the water. This isn't just a place to live, it's a high-speed aquatic adventure. If James Bond ever needed a houseboat, this would be it. The boat roof house. Now we've seen floating homes, underwater villas, and boats that zip through the water like sharks, but this one? This isn't just a houseboat, it's literally a house with a boat for a roof. Welcome to the Boat Roof House, an architectural masterpiece sitting on the Isle of Arran in Scotland. This unique little cottage looks normal at first glance, but when you tilt your head up you realize the entire roof is made from an upside-down boat hull. And no, this wasn't just a design choice, it's actually an old tradition in fishing communities, where retired boats were repurposed as rooftops. Step inside and you'll find an incredibly cozy space where the boat's original ribs and keel create a beautiful wooden ceiling. It's like living inside a ship, except it's planted firmly on land. There's something almost poetic about it. A boat that once sailed the seas now protects a home beneath it. The best part? The house overlooks the stunning Scottish coastline, so while the boat might not be floating anymore, it still gets to watch the waves it once sailed on. A house that keeps the spirit of the ocean alive. How cool is that? And there you have it, 8 of the strangest houseboats that redefine living on water. From underwater bedrooms to boats that defy physics, these floating homes prove that creativity has no limits. Which one was your favorite? Would you ever live in one of these? Let me know in the comments. And if you love exploring unique architecture and real estate, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing content. This is DwellScape, and I'll see you in the next one. Have you ever wondered how entire cities can vanish almost overnight? What would it take for a thriving, bustling community to become a ghost town in the blink of an eye? Is it a natural disaster, a sudden economic collapse, or something even more chilling? Imagine waking up one morning and realizing everything you knew is gone, abandoned without a trace. In this video, we're going to explore the shocking reasons why cities are deserted, sometimes with no warning. What's the most unsettling reason you think a city could be abandoned? Let's find out. Natural disasters. Imagine living in a bustling city, surrounded by your friends, family, and familiar places. Then, in the blink of an eye, everything changes. Natural disasters like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and floods can erase entire communities, forcing people to leave their homes in a desperate rush. Take the tragic event of the 1985 eruption of Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia, for example. One night, the city of Armero was buried under layers of ash and mud, killing over 20,000 people. What was once a lively town became a ghostly landscape, untouched by human presence. This devastation happened in just hours, leaving behind haunting remnants of a thriving community. The residents of Armero had no choice but to flee, abandoning everything they knew in a matter of moments. And then there's the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Coastal cities, which once thrived on fishing and tourism, were suddenly swept away by a relentless wall of water. These catastrophes remind us just how fragile our existence is in the face of nature's raw power. Cities can be erased in an instant, with little warning, and the memories of those who once lived there fade into history. But while nature's fury is unpredictable, it also teaches us how resilient we are as a species, ready to rebuild even when everything seems lost. Economic decline. Economic downturns can also be a silent, creeping cause of city abandonment. Over time, industries that once fueled the growth of a city can collapse, leaving workers and residents stranded with nowhere to turn. A perfect example of this is the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, Once a bustling mining town, it was slowly consumed by a coal mine fire that ignited in 1962. The fire still burns today, years after it started. The town, once home to over 1,000 people, was evacuated, and what's left now is a ghost town. It's eerie to think that a thriving community full of life and purpose could fall victim to a disaster no one saw coming. But economic decline doesn't always come in the form of a fire. It can sneak in through slow and steady job losses, the closing of factories, or the depletion of natural resources. In Centralia's case, the collapse of the coal industry meant that the very heartbeat of the town, its jobs, disappeared, and the residents had no choice but to move on. The town's tragic fate serves as a stark reminder that cities can rise and fall with the economy, and when the foundation crumbles, entire communities are forced to leave everything behind. It's a sobering thought that underscores just how dependent we are on the industries that support us. Health epidemics. What if your city was suddenly struck by an invisible enemy, one that spread like wildfire and left no time for preparation? Health epidemics have the power to force entire cities to evacuate or close their doors, sometimes without warning. In the 14th century, Europe was ravaged by the Black Death, a deadly plague that decimated a significant portion of the population. Towns and villages were abandoned in an instant, as fear of contamination led to mass exoduses. Imagine waking up one day to find your neighbors sick, your streets eerily empty, and no one left to turn to for help. During the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 to 1919, small towns and even cities in Arkansas were abandoned after more than 7,000 people died in a matter of weeks. With hospitals overwhelmed, resources exhausted, and fear running rampant, entire communities disappeared from the map. The most chilling part? People didn't have time to pack, to say goodbye, or even to mourn. They simply fled, leaving behind everything they knew. Epidemics can spread so rapidly that they erase entire communities, not through fire or flood, but through the terrifying speed of disease. When the threat of illness is too great, there's no choice but to leave, turning once thriving cities into hauntingly silent relics of the past. And the chilling reality is, while vaccines and healthcare advances have improved, no place is truly immune from the possibility of such an outbreak. Could it happen again? It's a question we'd rather not answer, but one we must never forget. War and conflict. Imagine living in a peaceful town one day, only to wake up to the sounds of chaos and destruction the next. War and conflict have the power to change everything in the blink of an eye. And when it strikes, cities can become ghost towns overnight. The village of Oradour-sur-Glane in France serves as one of the most haunting examples. During World War II, the town was destroyed by Nazi soldiers in a brutal massacre, and its residents were either killed or taken away. The village was left in ruins, abandoned by survivors, and has remained frozen in time as a memorial to that dark chapter of history. The pain and horror of losing everything in a single moment is unimaginable. Even in more recent conflicts, entire cities have been emptied out as people flee from the violence and devastation. In Syria, towns once filled with families and businesses have been reduced to rubble, with citizens left to pick up the pieces of their broken lives. War does not just take lives, it erases the very fabric of a community. Buildings, homes, and memories are torn apart, and entire cities are abandoned as people struggle to survive. The fear and devastation of conflict leave deep scars that never truly fade, and what remains is often a silent reminder of the cost of war. The cruel reality is that, in the aftermath, the fight isn't just about survival, it's about rebuilding a life in a place that may never truly feel like home again. Environmental changes. Imagine a place where the climate is slowly changing, making everyday life harder, and before you know it, the land that once supported you can no longer sustain your home. Environmental changes, such as rising sea levels, desertification, and severe droughts are causing once thriving cities to be abandoned. Take, for example, the village of Dhanushkodi in India, a small coastal town that was destroyed during the 1964 Ramaswaram cyclone. What was once a bustling hub became a desolate wasteland, completely uninhabitable after the disaster. While Dhanushkodi's fate was sealed by a storm, other cities face a more gradual threat from environmental changes. As global temperatures rise, low-lying coastal cities like Miami or Jakarta are at risk of being submerged by rising sea levels. And in places like the American Southwest, droughts have drained rivers and left once fertile farmland barren. For communities that depend on agriculture and natural resources for survival, environmental changes are not just inconvenient, they're existential threats. Cities and areas prone to desertification like those in parts of Africa face a similar fate. The land becomes uninhabitable and residents have no choice but to leave, searching for somewhere they can survive. The loss of a city to environmental change isn't always dramatic, but it's just as irreversible. And what's more frightening is that it's a reality many more cities will face as the planet's climate continues to shift. These abandoned cities aren't just reminders of nature's power, they're also warnings about what might happen if we don't take action to protect the environment. Government actions. Sometimes the force behind an abandoned city isn't a natural disaster or economic collapse, but a decision made in a distant office far from the people who will be affected. Government actions, whether for military, industrial, or infrastructural purposes, can lead to entire cities being evacuated or destroyed. Take the example of Tyneham, a village in Dorset, England. During World War II, the British government requisitioned the village for military training, forcing residents to leave. What was once a vibrant community became a military zone, and since then, it has remained abandoned. It's eerie to think that a place filled with families, farmers, and teachers could be erased from the map by a simple decree from the government. Similarly, in the Soviet Union, entire cities were built for military or industrial purposes, and then abandoned once the strategic need for them had passed. Pripyat, near Chernobyl, is a haunting example of this kind of government decision. After the nuclear disaster in 1986, the Soviet government evacuated Pripyat and nearby areas, leaving behind not only the people, but also an entire city frozen in time. What's especially unsettling about government actions leading to city abandonment is that it often happens without warning, leaving residents with no time to prepare. Whether it's for the sake of national security or economic development, these decisions can turn entire communities into ghost towns, leaving behind stories of lost lives and erased histories. What's even more chilling is that sometimes the people affected have no say in the matter. Technological hazards. In our modern world, technology is both a blessing and a curse. While it enables us to build great cities and communities, it can also create catastrophic hazards that lead to the abandonment of entire areas. Industrial accidents, such as chemical spills, nuclear meltdowns, or fires, can transform a once thriving city into a hazardous wasteland, leaving residents with no choice but to flee for their lives. One of the most infamous examples is the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. A catastrophic nuclear accident at the Chernobyl power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine, released dangerous levels of radiation into the atmosphere, rendering the city uninhabitable. The government evacuated residents, and what remained was a ghost town, an eerie snapshot of life frozen in time. Years later, the radioactive contamination still poses serious risks to human life, and Pripyat remains a haunting reminder of the dangers of technological failure. Similarly, chemical spills, like the one in Bhopal, India in 1984, can wreak havoc on communities. The Bhopal gas tragedy, caused by a toxic gas leak from a pesticide plant, left thousands dead and thousands more injured. The area was abandoned due to the lingering toxic chemicals that made it unsafe for habitation. In both cases, technology, which was supposed to provide power and economic growth, became the very thing that destroyed those cities. Technological hazards remind us that the progress we make comes with a hidden cost, one that, when things go wrong, can have devastating, long-lasting consequences. If this video got you thinking about the fragility of our cities, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think causes a city to vanish overnight? If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to subscribe to DwellScape for more fascinating stories about architecture, urban landscapes, and the mysteries that surround them. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.